Mobile Suit Gundam Operation Code Fairy. It's a good game. Except for the CG combat. So one thing I don't like about it, if that wasn't in it, this is a weird game because there's like these really dope anime cutscenes, like legitimate, like net 2000s, 90s anime or something. But then they contrast it with the CG Battle Operation 2 combat. Gundam games are weird. First of all, I'm not even interested in Gundam Breaker or SD Gundam. Like, I like the SD Gundam toys, but they're always doing something so different. They just can't kind of find some kind of ground or some lane to go down. But other than Gundam Versus, this is the only other Gundam game, at least modernly accessible, that is kind of an exception. Like, I'm not a fan of the combat, but I like it and I respect it. Because I tried Battle Operation 2 for a day as well, and I know they're very linked together. This is basically a single-player story version of that online game. I don't know, it's cool. It's more realistic, it's more grounded, it's more physics and weight and distribution and, you know, waiting for your reloads and power, and it's not as crazy as Versus, especially Gundam Versus Extreme Versus Maxi Boost, where it's just crazy nonsense chaos. You know, you have all these Gundams with all these nutty powers and stuff, and here it's more. This game worked well. I started Volume 1 a long time ago, but then I just really didn't want to finish it and play Volume 2 and 3. Because I just didn't, like, I enjoyed it enough to play it, obviously, but I just couldn't get behind the combat, and that's kind of the whole game. Other than that, it's just watching anime, basically. Like, I haven't seen enough Gundam. If I wanted to go watch Gundam anime, I'll just go do that. This is a different story, or it's obviously not super tied into everything else, but I don't know. And even when I got back into it recently, because I only got inspired to finish it because of the Requiem for Vengeance. And this was about as close as it was going to get to that show, because Gundam Versus wasn't really as accurate or had nothing to basically do with the show at all, or it's obviously like a mix of everything. Because I played that at first, I was just trying to get my Gundam fix. Just wasn't enough though. I only played it for like a few hours, but yeah, I needed something more. It's just, I was excited to come back and play it, but it just wasn't a priority. It wasn't, I didn't feel like I was missing out on much. Yeah, I wanted to watch the rest of the story follow through, but I wasn't worried about, because the combat's hard. It's not easy. It's much more strategic and tactical, and a lot of strafing, a lot of moving, which is normal in mobile suits, right? But these things are so slow. It's the most frustrating thing ever. That's why I love Versus. I like fast, nimble, quick, light builds and games, and I like to be on my toes and have some kind of an advantage there, and like, I'm not into heavy builds, and like when you think of axes and knights and, you know, and hammers, and so this game was really going out of my comfort zone, because yeah, I like Gundam, yeah, I like the theme, the aesthetic, the girls, the setting, the the UI, the colors, the realistic Gundams. But it's like, okay, well, if I had to choose one Gundam game to mess around with at all, it would have been Versus. It just would have been that much easier to deal with. But, you gotta think about it too, like, well, that's the only one game I have, and it's a pretty blank slate, like, it's more tailored towards multiplayer, and, it's a little cartoony, and, you know, so this was a nice change of pace. Like, Versus and this couldn't be more opposite. Because you got one that's just really out there, and then you got one that's really trying to take itself a lot more seriously, and then when you put Gundam or Breaker and SD in there, I don't know where that fits in, but I figured this was a good way to contrast. I've spent a lot of time in Versus. I've been playing every single suit. I've been trying them out. It's still an ongoing thing, but you know, it's fun, and I'll be playing that same suit and really getting to know it for a good 10-20 minutes until I lose the battle, and then just, you know, go on to the next one. And it's so different too. I went back and played Versus more because it's just a good go-to game for whenever. I went back to that after finishing this. It was weird. It felt good though, like finally I can kind of move how I want, do what I want. Like I don't care if I lose, or I'm not anxious to really get better at it or this or that, but I still know what I'm doing. It's just about how far you want to get and how much you're willing to kind of go through and finding out that special suit that works for you. But that's Gundam Versus. This is like you don't have 1,000 Gundams to pick from. You can't move as quick as you want, and that was the most frustrating for me with this game. Is like I was just so used to like doing something so different with these Gundams, with these mobile suits. God, and it was just so slow. It was painful. Every reload, every time I had to get up and I got knocked down, or every time I wanted to jump up on a building and use my thrusters and, you know, get across the map and capture bases, like it was a nightmare. This game takes a lot more patience and a lot more understanding and tolerance. Which is fine, because it is worth it. It's a good enough gameplay loop where, like, you work your way around and you know what you're doing up to a point. It can be kind of addicted. It does feel good landing those hits and staying alive and beating the mission and getting an okay rank and just kind of getting it done and making progress and completing it. And the fact that I started this how long ago and then finally finished it, it felt good. It really did get that fix I was looking for, because that show was so good, and it was a lot better than I thought, because I was like, CG. But it was a nice change of pace. It was nice that it wasn't anime, and it wasn't just a season I'd have on in the background or to sleep to or kind of watch, and there's like, what, 20 of them, or I don't know. But it was just different, and I really didn't mind that. It looked great, the show, and this is kind of my way to express that, and I don't normally do that too, so it felt good. Like, not only is it anime, but it's Gundam, the show, it just kind of really worked out. It's the only thing that really kept me going, because there's times I was just raging and yelling and being mad and frustrated and angry. To be fair, I was doing easy and normal, and I normally don't even like to bring up stuff like that, but the way this game is, it's categorized. You gotta do easy or normal. You unlock hard after you beat the whole 5 chapters of that first volume, or the second, third. And then you can do hard, which I did a few of those, but it didn't go far. I don't know. Cutscenes are good.
よっと。おー、素敵。
ようこそティルナノーグへ。新兵器テストから引き抜いちゃって悪かったわね。
いや、あの子全然動かなくてやることなくなっちゃったんですよ。
In fact, the cutscenes were the best part. I mean, which they usually are, right? But because I gotta say, anime games they have really good presentation, and you know everything's there. It's like just like the show usually. It just works, but then you get into the gameplay and it's kind of like okay, because they're obviously trying to interpret something into another thing, and I don't think they always have that figured out, but you make the best of it. But yeah, the difficulty was just usually I only do like easy for like an open world game or something. I don't need to push myself harder than I need to. I've ranted about all that so many times, but with this game it's kind of like Resident Evil 6. It's one chapter in a volume, and then well, there's 5 total, but it's one, and then there's 2 fight scenarios, maybe depending if you get a new suit or not or whatever, training on top of that, which you can skip. But so there's grades. There's a grade for each thing. I didn't care about getting S ranks. If I got it, cool, whatever, move on. I'm not about to spend too much time doing that. But and the reason why I got mad at all is because I tried to push it further than I really needed to. This game is only it's difficult, and it's just not my style. It's not my energy. It's not. I had a hard time finding a flow and like a you get good at it, sure, but like up to a point, and I felt like I was just being blocked the whole time. Like it wasn't allowing me to do what I wanted to, and it was so constricted and so, you know, you go from easy to normal, vice versa, and it's night and day difference. Hard, forget about it, but that wasn't so bad towards like the upper chapters. But I was glad I did normal, because, you know, I really didn't have to. The only viable way to get through the damn game and just finish the thing was to play easy, unfortunately. Like, I don't normally look at games like, okay, I gotta do normal. If it's like any other game, like point A to point B, linear, story, those really aren't like a big deal. You know, especially if they're putting easy, very easy, normal, you know, kind of normal, blah blah blah. But here it was pretty much just like, you know, hey, since it's mostly menu based, you just kind of, well, you can keep going, but so basically, I don't know, like I went further than I had to, so I could stay a step ahead at least, maybe 2 steps if I'm lucky, get some extra parts, get some XP, which would have just helped along the way. But I always tried to go in normal, and then most of the time it was a matter of, what can I get away with? Can I go into normal, and then if shit goes bad, just go to easy. But yeah, because that's the thing. This isn't Gundam Versus where you just kind of, it's a branch battle. This isn't Battle Operation 2 where you can build on your mobile suit more, and your parts and your customization and the suits you use, and you were very limited to what you can and can't do. And yeah, there was like other modes where you can there was other side stories. There was other, what do they call it, situations or simulations where you can get more parts. The more parts, the more it helps. But you're going from one Gundam, oh, all of a sudden now we get a new one. Now we have to adjust to that and its weapons. Is it faster? Is it slower? There's a lot to consider, like physics-wise, and as soon as you get used to one Gundam, they kind of force you to use a different one, so you're never really being able to build on just one Gundam and kind of get used to it and make it your main, and that's why I love RPGs, is you're really in control of like how strong you want to be and what you're wanting to do and how and when, all these things. You know, with this, you're a lot more restricted to the system that they put in place for you. So basically, if I didn't do normal and all that, and as much as I did, there's only a few I couldn't do because it was just that bad, but I wouldn't have got as mad. So the game is good to the point where I didn't have to get as mad as I did, but I wanted to test myself and see how far I can go within reason. So, and with this game, it's not really that big of a deal if you're switching back and forth. With other games, it's tough when you just pick a difficulty, just stick with one and go and just do it, you know? Most of the time, you can't even switch mid-game, so like, but with this, it was just so easy to kind of like, alright, I'll back out. Fuck it, dude, let's just go. I want to get this shit done. So yeah, I'm proud of myself for like going a little bit above and beyond and further than I really needed to, because I want to say that helped along the way. It made going back to easy that much more satisfying. But it was rough with how slow everything is, and the constant dialogue and the cutscenes and the intros and the outros and going from one chapter to another and the volumes and it was too much, man. Like, I made this game harder than it really needed to be, and I didn't go back and I tried those simulations. They were kind of hard with what I had at the time. The only thing that really helped me going back and trying was getting XP and leveling up your character and leveling up your stats. Which was the only thing that got me as far as I did. Otherwise, versus just simply finishing the story, so. But it's tough too, because like, whatever parts you get, you can put them on any suit, but when you're switching from one suit to another, you know, the weapons you get, are you getting a level 2 gun, a level 2 sword? That's only going to be on that Gundam, and that Gundam may only be playable for like 5 chapters, and then you're doing 3 different characters on top of that, so you're constantly adapting to, and each mission is different enough where it's different scenarios. Is it a defend the carrier? Is it, you know, don't let these trucks escape? Is it fucking wipe out waves of enemies? Is it a boss? And the fact that they do like 2 scenarios each chapter, it's just, man, it was a trip. I kind of like games like this where it's cut up and categorized and it's very selective, and you can kind of really go in and kind of choose how you want to take on this particular mission. It's just all tabbed up and ready to go, and you get in, you get out, you know it's not going to take too long. But there are some missions where I just had to do them like 5-10 times to, because I'm always like, okay, well, I could have done this better. I could have went back and I could have tried this position. I could have, I don't know, especially me starting the game X amount of time ago and then coming back all this time later, I really had to kind of relearn how to play again. And at first it was a little rough, but I stuck to it. All in all, it probably took like a week. Like, time goes by pretty fast. It doesn't seem like each mission or whatever is that long, but you got the intros, the outros, the dialogue, the cutscenes, the missions. You know, sorting out your suit and deploying and checking your customization and switching to your better parts, and oh boy, gameplay is good. Yeah, that's just like the tedious side of stuff, the niche, you know, meticulous crap. Other than like the specific details and things like that, it was just a good game. The aesthetic, the atmosphere, the only thing I didn't like about it, same with the show, and I didn't really come back and realize it as much until after the show, but I was like, dude, why are we focusing so much on the Xeon? Like the bad guys. They made the Federation look like a bunch of pigs. And to be fair, like considering the animes, like some of these Federation guys, they're not all good. You know, they're depicted as the good guys, but some of them are, or at least they start off as really bad people, especially the main characters, but they find their heart. They find, that's the whole Gundam thing, is like they work together and they meet each other in the middle, and mutual agreement and understanding and compassion, and which is a good message to send. And I don't mind focusing on the bad guys. It's cool. I love the Xeon. I love Zaku's. But there just wasn't enough Gundams. Or like there was some modes you can play as one, and yeah, there's Battle Operation 2. Yeah, there's Versus. You can do whatever the hell you want in those games, but I don't know, it's weird. Like the only, with how relatable this was, almost literally the show. I don't know what was based off of what, but the Requiem. Because like, okay, Star Wars, for example, like we don't get enough games as the Sith. We don't really see enough shows and movies from the Sith's point of view. I mean, we do, but it's always the good guy, the hero. But that's what you kind of get, that's what you get used to. That's why the anime works so well, is because that's what it does. And then they try to go this other route by focusing on the bad guys, which are good guys. Which is fair, because, like, I mean, they're people too. They're human just like everyone else. They just happen to be on the wrong side, the losing side. And you only ever see like a few war movies ever that do that as well, like kind of from the opposite point of view, which is always an interesting perspective, but the issue is I just wasn't interested. It's just not what I wanted or was interested in. I like this game. I like what it did. All these pieces they put together, all the layers, and the girls are great. I love them. It was not a bunch of dudes. It was not the good guys. It was very non-typical, and it worked. But they also made the feds, as they say, which is funny. They made them look like terrible. And obviously, the show will always favor the Gundams, the White Devil. I mean, Jesus, dude. I don't know, it's just funny because, like, you know, the Xeons literally depict Nazis. I mean, I think they leaned on that a little too. I know these guys, I know that have a soft spot for Germans. I get it. You know, just like the girl in SAO, the little army girl, the grenade launchers. Like, hey man, I know my history, I understand, but at the same time, it's like, ooh. And the Zaku's, man, just like how they explained in the show, they're outdated, they're old, you know, they don't have as good technology. Basically, playing this game, you're on the losing side the whole time. You know they're gonna lose. You know that they're gonna retreat. They're not gonna lose they're not gonna win the battle for Earth. Period. It's just not gonna happen. It's weird though, because you don't know who to root for. Like, okay, should I be rooting for my enemies? I like being the underdog. I like supporting the underdog. And to be fair, yeah, here it was the Xeon, but like even the bad guy who played the main villain Gundam, that sounds weird to say. She ended up having to turn to heart. Change of heart. But I want a good Gundam game, but just focused on them, the good guys. Is that so much to ask? There's been supposedly a billion Gundam games, but obviously they're older or just not as accessible or whatever it is, and I only use one platform, and I don't know. And like, I cared about these characters and I liked them, and seeing them bond and grow and evolve and spend time with each other and, you know, get to know each other and become best friends, all these great things. It's just, I didn't feel for them. I didn't really care necessarily, because you watch enough other Gundam and play enough that you already have this kind of mindset, and it's kind of hard to just all of a sudden turn that around. And if anyone was going to do it, it was going to be these girls, because obviously they have a big heart, a lot of spirit, a lot of humanity, and I don't know, the whole game was just a mind fuck, because like bad guys, girls, CG, anime, it was just going back and forth so much. It was just confusing. But I love like their purple scheme, I love their little base they had. There's like a lot of good things to like about it, which is what I'm trying to make the point of, but there's just so many bad things too, and this is why I sat on the rest of the game for this long, is because like I wasn't into it. But sometimes you gotta not be too picky and just, you know, be happy with what you have and settle for what it is that's in front of you, and that's kind of what I did. But I hate to say that, because like on one hand I really liked it, and on the other I just didn't like it at all. But hey, it made me, I don't know, you become a more balanced, well-rounded gamer slash weeb playing stuff like this, because it may or may not be the perfect game, but sometimes you can't always ask for that, and just have to realize, like, if I like it enough, I'll play it. And that's always been kind of my thing. I didn't want to dismiss it completely, and the fact that you could purchase each volume separately. You could do volume 1, 2, 3, but I was just happy with 1. Cause I was like, hey, I'll try it out. If I like it, cool. If not, I'm not missing out on much. I didn't have to get the whole game. But it's funny how I eventually did anyway, so. Yeah, it was a good game, but it wasn't good combat, but it wasn't. If it weren't for those cutscenes, you could tell why they did exactly what they did. If it weren't for those really, and getting cutscenes like this is so rare. Full-on animation style, like legitimate. Like in SAO, for example, you might only get that like here and there. Or it'll be like, you know, cel-shaded game format style. Ugh. But yeah, this game couldn't have done more right things and more wrong things. I'm just so 50-50 on the fence about it. But nonetheless, it was an experience, and don't regret it. Probably played it a little longer than I had to, because I did more than I really needed to, but I wanted to to find whatever good was in that game. So that's why I do that, is to see if there's more to it than I want to believe or see. But it's one of those things when you know, it's either for you or it's not, but it is and it isn't. It's just whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I won't forget it. It was like when I first played it, the first few chapters are so good. Like really, everyone's getting to know each other, and that's what I love, is seeing these characters bond. I love it's always characters first for me. More than gameplay, more than whatever else there may be. Well, it depends, but anime games specifically. And it did get really good, the story. And I liked this because, like, I wasn't interested in Battle Operation 2, and it was nice to have a single player version of what that game can do. And then some with the cutscenes. So I thought it was a really rare treat, like a hidden gem, to come across this game at all. It's obviously not nearly as well known or popular and trendy as Battle Operation 2, but that game only got as far as it got because it's an online Gundam game. That's it. But yeah, for those who know, this definitely wasn't a bad play. It was as enjoyable as it could be, and I'm glad I did it. Yeah. Battle Operation 2. Code Fairy. Gundam. Mobile Suit.